One of the things agents often do wrong in their sales process is they talk too much on the phones. They'll over-explain things.
Do that again. Okay. Come on. Have some enthusiasm.
All right.
Okay.
One of the things agents often do wrong in their sales process is they talk too much on the phone. They'll over-explain things, redundantly explain things, go back over the same thing multiple times. That was an example of doing that, redundantly explaining.
Do you not feel convicted and guilty
I
as
totally
you're
do.
saying that? Because
100%.
this is the pot calling the kettle black to the core. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I've told Caleb, hey, shut your mouth, let them talk. And that's usually when he's talking to me. So
Yeah, fair enough. It's true.
But yeah, that's
I hear it a lot.
Yeah,
I see agents. I ask them about their phone process or whatever in their, like, as a piece of the sales process, knowing full well that you take 10 to 15 minutes at most to book an appointment with your leads on your lead calls.
Now, why don't you want to meet with me? Because you gave them everything. They don't need to meet with you. It's like, why would they want to? They already know you won't shut up. It's kind of like the water softener guy that comes to my house and eats my cookies.
Oh, man.
That are sitting on the counter and then starts talking to me for 3 hours when he only told me it was going to take 35 minutes, which was a complete lie.
There's some odd specificity to that. Sounds like there's some wounds there.
It is, man. I had a box of Do-si-Do Girl Scout cookies on my counter, and he opened up that box. He opened up the cookies, and he asked if we had milk.
Just helped himself?
Yes.
No way.
Yes. So,
You ever done that at an appointment?
No.
Start snacking?
I can't do stuff like that. They offer me stuff all the time. This is Texas, man. They got a pecan pie ready for me or a peach cobbler, and I have to say, can't do it. So, well, thank you guys for joining us. I'm Chad Owen. This is Caleb North, and we are going to talk about that today because I'm telling you, man, there are some things that if agents would just tweak a tiny, tiny bit, it would make a big difference
100%.
in how they get customers or clients to respond to them. And then they would stop saying or going, well, I can't get anybody to meet with me, or it's just watch.
Yeah.
Listen to the guru.
You posted a poll that we created on LinkedIn and Facebook.
I could say we.
Yeah.
I mean,
asking.
You think like me.
I do
some of the
like
time.
You sometimes.
At about 5% capacity.
And that's usually why. That's you can call me Lucy.
Oh, that's such a good movie. Okay.
I reached
anyway.
100.
Yeah.
But anyways.
No, you haven't.
In the poll, we asked, what are you wanting training on? And 50% of the responses from both platforms said sales process specifically. So what we decided was we'll do a three-part series starting this week, and then there'll be another one next week and the week after that where we're diving specifically into sales process. So this week we're talking about things agents often do wrong in their sales process. Next week we'll talk about replicating a proven sales process, talking about yours. And then the last one we'll talk about tips for improving an already working sales process. So you're having success, but you want to refine it and improve it a little bit. We'll give you some tips on that. So
can you explain to me why Apple doesn't have a clock on their phone? I mean, a clock on their computer?
Well, they do. You just have to hover.
Okay. Just pause. Just a sec. Okay. Let them in.
Hey, Cam.
Cam! Cam! Okay.
Appreciate it. Grazie.
Close the door.
Okay, just a second.
We'll go back to.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why Apple does not have a clock on their computer?
No, they do. You just have to hover.
Because if we're talking about this, you are for sure. I don't have my phone. Give me your phone. I need to make sure we have a clock on this because we're going to take free setup.
I don't have a
There. Okay. Now we can make sure this guy doesn't talk too much.
Well, that is one of the things. As we already mentioned, one of the big areas that agents typically get wrong, and I've actually got today's episode segmented into 2 sections. Phone process errors, because that's part of the sales process, and then appointment process errors, because that's also part of the sales process. But, yeah, that was the first one I noted down for phones, was just talking too much.
So you segmented our things. Did you do bullet points on each one,
Yes.
subcategories? So we're going to, okay.
Yeah, it's outlined.
Let's do it.
All right. So you got the first one, talking too much, as I've given you ample example of today already. Over-explaining, redundantly explaining, and creating irrelevant conversation, right? Not getting to the point.
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? Do you really care, honestly, how many kids, grandkids they have, what painting they have on the wall, what the dog is barking in the back? I mean, often it's trying to relate. Now, I care if they have grandkids or they have kids. I mean, that's a very good point. But most people, when you're on the call with them, when you're getting the first phone conversation, you need to be the professional that this is what I do. This is what I'm looking for. This is how I can help you. And that's it, to get that appointment as long as they're qualified. Because of course, I had a client today call me from, he listed me 2014. And he's like, man, I've saved up a ton of money since then. I'm like, okay, not a problem. How much do you have? 35,000. I'm like, that's still not enough. And so, I got straight to the point. Not that he didn't care about his situation, but there are so many people, this, I'm in double-digit appointments now weekly.
Yeah.
And I just need to make sure I'm being very efficient with my time. And if I can't help them, and if I go into, I hear a dog barking in the back or a kid crying or whatever, that's wasted time.
Right.
And it's like you said, we're not trying to be ingenuine, and we're not trying to be where we don't care. It's just be the professional, get straight to the point, and don't share a whole bunch of unnecessary information just to break the ice.
Yeah. Well, and you got to think too, you're calling leads at a convenient time for you. The odds are pretty good that they're not just sitting at home twiddling their thumbs. Well, they're more than likely doing something, whether that's...
The rocking chair gets a lot of our clients. Yeah.
Don't you have a lot that are still working?
I do. It's weird, though, because they'll answer the phone. I mean, you've seen this, right? They answer the phone and they go, hello, and then start talking about, I'm sorry, I'm at work. Why did you answer the phone?
Right.
Like, they'll answer the phone. Even if it's inconvenient, they'll do it, and then they'll realize, this is a sales call. Right. That's why it's so important to get straight to the point.
Exactly.
I tell them, hey, you reached out to me. You requested information. Yeah. I'm an expert in this area. What can I answer for you?
Absolutely.
You get to it.
You're not wasting. Because if they get the sense that you're just gabbing on and on about random things, they're not going to stay on that call. They don't want that. They're probably doing something else. Get to the point, remind them that they reached out to you, and get on with it.
Yeah, so the kiss of death for me is if you're a telemarketer and you go, this is so-and-so, how are you doing today? Click.
Yeah.
That's a kiss of death. They don't care how I'm doing today.
Yeah.
And now if they have something that's valid, something that I need, something that will bring a benefit to me, then that's what I'm interested in continuing a conversation.
That's right. Another one is not communicating with the end in mind. Okay, so treating the conversation very open-ended.
So
right?
What's the end in mind?
Well, you got to qualify them, and if they're a sales qualified lead, meaning they for an annuity, then the goal becomes book the appointment. Those are the two things. You qualify
nothing else, right?
That's it.
I mean, it's not more complicated than that.
It's not more complicated than that.
It's so simple. People overcomplicate. If you're overcomplicating the phone script, I can't imagine what you're doing in the appointment.
It's true.
Or product picking.
Right.
It's like the kiss of death in our industry is overcomplicating simplicity. And it's whether it's the phone conversation, it's the appointment. The whole purpose of that first call is to how much money do they have? So can we help them? And of course, getting the appointment if we can.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Nothing more, nothing less.
It feels to the client like it's just floundering about if you don't have an end in mind that you're working toward. It feels like it's unled. It doesn't feel like you know what you're doing. If you're reliant upon them to try to pull the call along, that's a failing strategy. You need to lead the call, know where you're working them toward, and then recognize, is this somebody that would actually benefit from what I do, or are they unqualified for it? And if they are, tell them and move on to the next. And if they're not, then the goal becomes the only thing you're selling is the appointment.
Yep.
Because that's another thing that I have noted down here is it's an error to try to sell anything other than the appointment. That's the next thing is the appointment. So sure,
That's a really good way to put it, because there's often, I mean, I've lost count in the number of agents I've helped with phone selling, and they try to sell themselves, sell the product. They'll get into, well, what are you doing? I'll tell them. I'll say, if somebody says, well, what do you use? Well, I use an indexed annuity with an income rider. And I'll tell them, or I'll use an indexed annuity. Obviously depends on what they're doing or what the purpose of it is, but I'll just flat out tell them right there. And man, don't try and sell the product on the phone.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. We talked about not leading the call, but yeah, if you're relying on the prospect or the lead to move the call along, that's a failing strategy. If you're talking too long, I mean, realistically, they shouldn't be 30 minutes more. They should be probably max of 15. That's a target that I encourage agents to shoot for, because there's no reason why you can't build your expertise, your rapport with them, get the information that you need, explain what you do, and book the appointment in a 15-minute time slot.
Yeah, it should not. I mean, every once in a great while, and often it's the appointments that are really far away. I'm taking more time with those, because if I'm going to drive 2 hours, I'm going to overqualify them.
Right.
You know, that's really what that comes down to.
Absolutely.
And don't give me a call or send us a message, why don't you do virtual? I will always pick face-to-face over virtual. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying, out of the hundreds of agents that I talk with consistently, I have not met one superstar that writes over $15 million a year off of virtual appointments. I've met a lot that will do 2, 3, 4, 5 million. You know, I met, and I can't say a lot. I would say one out of, you know, if you tell me you do virtual appointments, I'd say probably 80% do under 2 million. And then you probably have another 10% that do between 2 and 5. And then you maybe have 5% that do 5 to 7.5, and then the rest is above that. If you do over 10 million, it's incredibly rare. I don't know if I've ever met someone that does virtual that's done over 10 million a year.
Wow.
Not saying they're not out there.
Sure.
I don't think we're quite at that phase. Now, I also see, and it depends on where you are too. If you're in the middle of, you know, the West Virginia and you're up in the hills, well, obviously you can't do a large marketing with a dense population. So you have to be more creative, and you do have to do some appointments virtually. But if you're in a city that has more than 500,000 people, generally virtual is not the best way to go. Now, and I'm just saying not, but you can also look at I see people getting leads all over the United States now to try and do virtual. Thank you. I've gotten a lot of deals because of that.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, because they want that person right there. And he's, oh, yeah, I've met with 3 people virtually. I said, oh, okay. So we started talking to him. I said, so you probably want someone that's really close to you, right? Oh, absolutely. And I actually have a better product than what they're doing. Yeah, I agree with that too. And so, you know, because once again, no matter how good you are, people try, because of virtual, they try and talk way more than what they need to as well.
Right.
Yep.
It's true. The last one that I noted down for the calls is that agents often don't get enough information about the client on the call to put together some kind of customized illustration for educational purposes, right?
Yep. I actually still run into that. I just went to prepare for this week, and I went to do an illustration, and I didn't put what time they plan on retiring.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I need to get a lot better at taking notes. And I admit that. It's like, I don't know what that is. I've done this for so many years. And if I've done this for so many years and I still can't get that, oh man, I forgot to ask them when they're going to retire. Or I asked them that question and I forgot to write it down.
Right.
That's why it is very important when you are making calls to be very deliberate and make sure you have kind of a focused time. A lot of times I'm actually training an agent while I'm actually while I'm doing my calls. So I'll hear them say something, it'll get me a little sidetracked, and then I forget to write something down, or they'll walk into my office, hey, are you on the phone? Nope. Or I am, and then I forget to write that down. So just be very deliberate in your time to write everything down, because if you have all that information, and you can do a little mini fact finder, and then you can have the illustrations, the product brochures, the kit. You can have that all put together. That being said, there are quite a few times as well where I go to the house and the product changes.
Right.
And so that's okay. That's why I have everything accessible on my laptop.
That's true.
I can pull anything up at any time and email it to them right there.
Yeah. That's important. As you were talking, another one came to mind, and it's about the lead. A lot of times agents will take whatever information is on the lead form and just assume that to be fact. You actually do the opposite. You take basically just the name, and then you ask all the same questions again.
Do. Doesn't matter. And actually, a guy, lead today, said that he lives in Blanco, and I was like, man, I'm in Blanco tomorrow. But it said, don't call him till morning at the end of the week.
Right.
And I called anyway, and I got an appointment with him tomorrow.
Right.
So if I would have listened to that lead, then I wouldn't have that appointment tomorrow.
That's true.
And
what would have transpired between now and Friday?
Well, next week I'm gone, so it probably would have been, I don't know if I would have been able to get in touch with him, because if I didn't get in touch with him this week, or I waited till Friday, then I had to book the appointment for 2 weeks out. Who knows?
Yep.
But I know I do have an appointment with him tomorrow.
The more time that transpires between the lead's initial inquiry and when you actually meet with them, the worse the chance for a deal becomes.
That's why they call it lead rot.
Yeah.
You know, it's very normal for a lead to just rot. The other thing I want to point out too is, don't ever look at the amount they tell you they have, because there's so many times I've taken a $25,000, that's what they have, and they end up having millions.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And I'm going to balance this out too, because I'll hear an agent say, I never run into that. Generally, that's because you're not doing the right type of fact finding when you're on the phone. That's why it's so important. If you're super serious about this business, you jump into our academy.
Yeah.
I mean, I have everything in there about what I do with that academy and how to make your phone calls, whether depending on what lead source is, or if you're cross-selling. You know, if we've talked about this, I can't even tell you how many times. It's not the cost of the lead that's the problem. It's the cost of missed opportunity. And if you're not jumping to the academy and you're investing in your training, then you're not going to make it. I mean, that's just, and I'm not saying my training is the best ever. I mean, we do very well on it. We have an incredible platform, but there are a lot of incredible trainers out there. There are not many, though, that actually run appointments in the field all the time. I told someone before, I have 14 appointments this week.
Sure.
I mean, that's a lot.
And I would argue probably even fewer that are doing the entire process.
Yeah.
Right? There's probably some out there, or maybe some out there that are training and writing big numbers, but they're signing apps, and that's their day-to-day, rather than actually making their own calls and running their own initial appointments and closing the deal and doing pending business.
Yeah,
and all
so
the
it's
things.
funny, you know, and it's not about the award.
Sure.
It's about doing your work and being recognized for your work. And there are a couple companies I've been to the award banquets, and the top 10, because I've been number 1 2 times in a company. I've been in the top 25 many times, but the people that get like the top spots are often a team of people. And I'm like going, it says, Bob Smith, top agent for blah, blah, blah company. And I'm like going, that is not Bob Smith. Bob Smith has Bob Smith Jr. It has little Susie. It has, and there's 6 agents under there.
They're
and
all
they
LOA'd
all
to
right under his name. That's not, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
But anyway.
All right, moving on to the
If I
appointment
get
process
beat,
errors.
I want to get beat fair and square. So, I mean, that's,
One-on-one.
let's do it. But if I get beat, though, I'm also super excited for people, too. I don't get threatened by other people's success. I love it when I hear someone just, oh, hey, I had $1 million sale this week. That's awesome.
Fantastic, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
Well, you got to recognize that the appointment process errors, there's a lot of overlap to the phone process errors, right? It could be a time issue. It could be a content issue. It could be a leadership issue. There's a bunch of different things that overlap between the two, but some that are a little bit more specific to the appointment process is not doing good fact-finding. Now, we talked about doing the mini fact-finding, but on the appointment side, we're talking the full-blown fact-finding, right?
Are we going through all that right now?
Well, loosely.
We might need to break that into another one. I do not want to drown these people with information.
We'll be quick.
We're
be
already
quick.
at 20 minutes.
We'll be quick.
Okay.
But poor fact-finding could be doing too much digging or not enough digging. Too much digging into things that don't matter or not enough digging into things that actually do. So that's important. Another one that an error agents make is not educating well. They try to
Educate the way they learn.
That's right.
That's the important thing. Like, I am not good at reading and retaining, but listening and retaining, contrary to some other people in my life that might think differently, my kids and my wife, but it's like, it's not that I'm not listening. It's just, it doesn't sink in sometimes.
Yeah.
But Audible, podcast, I learn very well that way. And clients, you just got to tell, are they visual? Are they audio? How do they retain information?
Absolutely. I think there's kind of 4 key areas of education in the appointment. Number 1, educating them on what you do. Mm-hmm. Number 2, educating them broadly on the different types of products that you use. Number 3, educating them on the alternatives that they could have available to them, but particularly why those aren't necessarily the best options for them. And then lastly, the specific solution that you're bringing to solve their problem, like the individual product itself. And if you'll educate well on those 4 things, you generally aren't going to have a bunch of confused clients unless you over-explain, try and complicate it or whatnot.
Over-explaining will confuse people like crazy.
It's true.
I don't have a problem repeating something.
Sure.
If they don't fully understand it, I'll go back through it again.
Right.
But that's not over-explaining. That's bringing clarity because they're trying to understand.
Right.
So I have no problem with that.
I think another one that sometimes traditional sales individuals that happen to be selling annuities get wrong is kind of a hard sell, a lot of pressure trying to be applied, and that's just, you don't need to. If you've got a good process and you're actually finding a problem, finding the best solution, educating them on how that works, and then correcting any misconceptions that they have, aka objection handling, you don't need to be high pressure, hard sales guy. It's just, that's the reality. Another one is not handling objections well. Some agents, they get, a quote-unquote objection, and then they start freaking out, and they're not sure what to do or how to respond to it, or they just let the thing go. And it's like,
most people that handle objections never address the actual question.
Interesting.
They don't address they don't listen to what the problem is. They'll hear the client say, well, I'm not ready to buy an annuity now. And then they go into like this big explanation or trying to take that objection. Like the root of that is why. Why aren't you ready to buy now? Well, I still don't understand, or I still hate annuities, or I don't know how this benefits me. That's why I'll ask. If they go, well, I'm not ready. Okay, why? And I don't mean it in a very buy right now. It's like, why? What, is there something that I missed, or is there something you have a concern? I just need to read through the material. Oh, perfect. This is all yours to read through. I meet with you again in a week. I actually had a 0 week last week, but I probably could have closed 2 of those deals.
Yeah.
I just was like, you know what? There's still that little tinge that I'm not sure if they fully understand it. So if they don't fully understand it, then I want to meet with them again next week. Go over it.
Good.
I know for a fact 2 of them I could have closed last week, but what good is that? So I got a 1 sit, 1 close. I will never get a 1 sit, 1 close unless I know for a fact that client is very comfortable with what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Another error that agents make in the first appointment is not booking the second appointment while they're still there.
All the time.
Goodness gracious.
Oh, that drives me nuts.
Book it. You've got them in front of you. Did you get
the second appointment? No, I was going to call them and get that. Book it right there. Well, what if they cancel? You didn't get the appointment in the first place.
Right. Yeah, it's already canceled
because you haven't even gotten it. And now good luck trying to get in touch with them again.
Yep.
It's hard. People have busy lives. It's hard to get in touch with them. And then there's these weird people that actually don't keep their phone with them all the time.
Right.
I don't know why people do that.
Yeah, interesting.
I can't get in touch with Josh. What's going on? I don't keep my phone by me all the time.
Don't even get me started.
Okay, there you
go. Okay, and then the last one that I noted down for appointments is not closing in the second. Now, are there instances where a third appointment is necessary? No. Yes.
It's not that common.
It shouldn't be that common. And I think that the reason that you see sometimes agents having 3, 4, 5 appointments with people is because they give into this idea of, I need to think about it. It's a time issue a lot of times. Or they haven't actually addressed the problem.
No, here's why people have multiple segment appointments. Okay, this appointment, we're going to get some information from you. Okay, now we're going to meet again. Okay, now I prepared this for you. Now we're going to explain it and go over it. Okay, now we're going to meet again. Okay, now we're going to go over questions and make sure everything's good. Okay, and then the 4th appointment, if you get to that, okay, now I'm going to try and close you like a used car salesperson.
Right.
Just like, I mean, that's a vicious cycle that I see. It's like, first appointment, that's the phone call.
Right.
That's my mini fact finder. Second appointment, I'm actually meeting with them face to face. I'm doing the fact finder, the full fact finder, and I'm explaining how the product works with an illustration I brought based off of the mini fact finder. And then I'm saying, hey, what questions do you have for me? Going over the illustration with them, making sure I'm meeting they need. And then I say, hey, well, what would you like to do now? Do you want to go in and do it now, or do you want to wait, give you all this information, you can read over it, and we can meet again and go over questions? So technically that's a third appointment when we meet for the second time, but don't drag it out.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to take you on a date on a 7-course meal. Why? Because I want you to feel obligated. No, she doesn't like you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many courses you give. She don't like you. A client can do that. Actually, if you're not really good people, the more times you meet with them, the less chance you're going to have to close. So, I mean, that's just a fact.
I want to make a statement, though, where I was going with the time thing, is that the idea of, I just need more time is actually not the problem. So again, we talk about objections. What's the actual problem? If somebody's saying, I need more time, I need more time, I need more time, what they're actually saying is I need more information, because decisions are instantaneous. Yeah. You don't actually need more time to make a decision. Well, you need the information to make the decision.
And they could say, I need more time because I'm not ready to retire, or I'm not 59 and a half yet.
If it's an actual thing.
Yeah, or I haven't sold my property, or, there's all sorts of things, but you still ask why.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Why do you need more time? And if it's a legitimate time issue, that's one thing. They're not retiring for whatever it is. Okay, great. Yeah. But often you'll find it's an information problem. They don't see the correlation between your solution and the problem that they have.
Or it's a you problem. They don't like you.
That's very.
I mean, I know there are people out there that I've met with that I was not the right person for them. Our personalities did not mix. I'm fine with that. I mean, there's nobody that's liked by everybody. So it's okay to admit that, hey, I'm just personality-wise, I'm not a good fit for you, and I'm fine with that. Yeah. How we still hang out together, I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you done talking yet?
A couple closing remarks. Okay. Now, this was something I posted on LinkedIn, and I thought it was fitting for today as you guys go and try and kind of refine and look at your sales process.
Deep thoughts from Caleb North. Brought to you by Heaven's Armory.
A good leader serves people with confidence and authority, and a good teacher takes complex subjects and makes them easily understood. Agents need to be both good leaders and good teachers. Yep. And if you'll develop your sales process around being a good leader and a good teacher, these issues that we're talking about will almost disappear.
Thank you, John Maxwell, for that word of advice.
That's a Caleb North original.
That's Caleb North original. Okay, guys. Well, until next time, happy selling.